Hello there and welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time, welcome to my channel. If this is not your first time, if you're a returning subscriber, welcome back to my channel. So in today's video, we're just going to be talking about a very simple yet very important topic, which is the concept of support and resistance. I'm making this video because a lot of traders have come to me. It is quite simple to understand, but it seems a lot of people are finding it difficult to identify it and also to use it on the chart, which is the topic or the concept of support and resistance. Now, support and resistance is one very simple topic that actually it is simple, but it took me some time before I actually learned about it, and when I did, it actually changed the game for me. Okay, so support and resistance, you can use it even if you trade if you trade within a range, if you trade if you trade with the trend, or you are a scalper, you are a day trader, you're a position trader, whatever kind of trader that you are, is going to help you if you trade a trend, if you trade a range, or even if you want to use it as an entry model. It also works well for you. So if you want to learn that, stay to the end of this video and don't miss out on any piece of information. I'm going to make sure that this video is as short as possible, so stick to the end of this video, and after the disclaimer, I'll be right back. Basically, identifying or spotting resistance and support on your chart is actually quite simple. All you have to do is just look at the chart, and before we even go into that, there's a concept that you need to be familiar with, which is the concept of your home. So let's use this instance. Let's take, for instance, your wherever you call home, your house or your home, wherever you call home. For most people, that is their support system. That's where their support system is. From that support system, or from that place, they go to their workplace. From that place, they go to their place of education, their school, or wherever they learn or they educate themselves. From that support, you go to any recreational center to enjoy yourself and enjoy your family and friends. From that same support, you go to your place of worship. From that same place, you go to any place, right? So that is a support for you. That is like a place where you take off from, right? Okay. Then the resistance is actually any place, right? Any place that you hit and then you have to return back, right? You hit and then you have to return back. You don't go to your work and stay there, right? You don't make your workplace your home. You actually come back, maybe every day or every weekend. You come back and you rest, and then you take off from there again, right? So just apply the same concept. Now, the support is usually where price, that zone, the support is usually the zone. It's not a line, by the way. The support and resistance is not a line. It is not a line, please. It is not a line. It is a zone from which price pivots, right, to another direction. So if price is buying, right, if the market is buying, it started buying from somewhere. That place it took off from is the support. If the market is selling, that place it started selling from is the resistance. Let's cut out all the grammar. Let's just go back to the chart and see what it is like. So before we start marking, there's another thing that you need to understand, that your support and resistance can be marked horizontally, and it also can be marked diagonally, right? So you have horizontal support and resistance. You also have diagonal support and resistance. Okay, so let's quickly see that you can use, if you're marking out your horizontal support and resistance, you can use, is either you use horizontal line, is either you can use the horizontal line. Let me look for it somewhere in my screen. Is either you use the horizontal line, is somewhere here, or you use the horizontal ray. So I'm just going to be using the horizontal ray because I have it as one of my favorite tools here on my backtesting software. Okay, so you can find this support and resistance on any time frame that you work with. Okay, but whenever I am just opening my charts and I'm just getting to see the screen, maybe for the first time in that day, I just want to see it. I just want to see what price is doing from a higher time frame, right? So let's just quickly see how to mark support and resistance. Now, any point or any zone, remember I said it is not a point, it is a zone. So any zone you see that price usually comes to and then changes direction from that zone is either a support zone or a resistance zone, right? So if price gets to a zone, if price is coming from below and gets to a zone and then reverses and starts dropping or starts selling again, that zone is referred to as a resistance zone. All right. For the support, whenever price is taking off from a zone below, for instance this one, I'm just going to be using my rectangle. I don't want to use a trend line again, so that you see that it is not a line, it is a zone, right? So I'm just going to be picking up my rectangle too. I can see this very obvious. Now remember, it has to be very obvious. If you have to, if you are guessing, if this is this, are you sure this is it? If you are in that state, it definitely means that you are not actually seeing it clearly, and there's no point forcing it, because they are quite resistance and support zones. They are quite obvious, right? If you just look at your chart, they are very, very obvious. So in this case, I'm seeing this very strong support that price tested for some time, right? Remember, it is a zone. Even if you decide to use a trend line, or you decide to use horizontal ray or horizontal line tool on your chart, just have it at the back of your mind that it is not a line, rather it is a zone. Okay, so I'm just going to be marking these ones that I have seen. Now this is another place where price has tested many times. Again, there's something I failed to chip in. If you see a zone or a particular place where price has tested a couple of times, right, it shows you that something is happening there. Buyers or sellers are rejecting the price it is, right? They are rejecting the price as at that time. Okay, so if price is being rejected, I want to mark out that place. So for instance here, let me use a rectangle again so that you see it. So this is the zone I'm referring to, right? Hold on, sorry. This zone is a very obvious zone. You can see whenever price gets to that zone, not that point now, whenever price gets to that zone, it somehow finds its way to pull away from that place, right? So if you are using it to mark, if you're just trying to mark your support and resistance, you can just mark it this way. But if you're using it as a form of entry, just know that sometimes a support or a zone that initially it used to be a resistance zone, it can then come to become a supply zone in the future. Same thing also, you may have a support zone, a zone that has been tested a couple of times as support, and then maybe price breaks down. Let me use so let's assume that we have this zone right here, okay, as a support zone. Okay, so let's say another zone is right up here. Okay, so let's take for instance that this is price, right? This is price doing its thing. It has tested this zone below. That zone that whenever price gets to it starts buying, right? Support zone, resistance zone. Whenever price gets to that zone, right, it's not a line. Whenever price gets to that zone, it begins to sell from there. That is a resistance zone. It's not difficult to understand, right? It's pretty simple. You buy from a support and you sell from a resistance. Just have that at the back of your mind and you'll be able to do that. So I just basically want to show you that a zone can actually be formerly a support zone and then turn to a resistance zone, or be a resistance zone and then turn to a support zone, right? So let me just use that. Let me just make an instance here before we actually go over to the chart and see exactly how it is done, right? So let's say this zone has been tested a couple of times, right? It has been tested a couple of times. Price has done something like this. Let's say price has done something like this. Okay, you can see that this zone right here, this zone right here, this zone, this rectangle, right? You can see that it has been tested. This entire zone has been tested a couple of times as a support, right? Now, this is a zone that you have to pay attention to. So let's assume that for whatever reason, price impulsively, the market, let me take that again. The market impulse from here is an instance, right? So let's say the market begins to, all of a sudden, for whatever reason, the market begins to sell from here, and boom, it breaks this zone, right? Be aware that it is most likely, price is most likely to come back to that zone and test it as a resistance zone this time, right? And then if it's suspect, we'll go in another video, we'll go over into entries, right? But I just want you to understand that sometimes a zone that has been tested a couple of times as a support can later be a resistance. A zone that has been tested a couple of times as a resistance can later be a support, right? So it's going to come here. Now, instead of it to buy from here like it has been doing before, it's just going to come here and look for a zone or a perfect entry and then start selling from there. So this is a price that sellers are comfortable selling from, and then you can see that price will just continue to go from there like that, like that, like that. Okay, so it is not difficult to understand. The thing is, you have to go over, like I keep saying, you have to go over to your charts and make sure that you spend much time with your chart so that you'll be able to see these things at a glance. Okay, same thing also, we may have a support zone. Let me take that back. So we may have a zone, a resistance zone, right? A resistance zone that price has tested a couple of times, and whenever price gets to that point, price would always find its way coming down to sell. And let's say it has happened before, it comes here, does maybe tries to give a fake out for those who thought that the price will start buying, but you can see that it is still going within this range, right? So it's doing this. Let's say it does this, comes back to do this again, right? A time will come where it will just come here, take out this zone, right? And then when it is coming back, it is not coming back to remain a resistance zone. Rather, it's coming here to make this former resistance zone, to make it now a support zone, and it is going to start buying from there, right? It is possible to see this on your charts anytime, any day, right? So do not be surprised that a zone has been tested a couple of times as a resistance zone. Doesn't mean that it cannot act tomorrow as a support zone. Vice versa, the same thing also applies to a support zone. It can be a support zone for a long time, and then from there it now becomes a resistance zone. So that's, by the way, let's just quickly go over to our charts and spot a few. Let's just spot a few, and then of course after this I expect that you go over and do your homework. You actually have to go over to your charts, any pair of your choice, right? Any pair, you can see it on any pair. You can see it whether you're trading crypto, you're trading stock, you're trading forex. You would find this on every chart, right? And even on every time frame, right? But I like to take my trading approach from a higher time frame and then go over, scale down to the smaller time frame whenever I want to look for an entry. But for this, I just want to be able to spot major support and resistance zone, right? So let me zoom out. So let's start here. So this zone right here, this zone, you can see that it has been tested about twice. It has been tested as a support. Also here, remember I said it is a zone, it is not a line. So this zone has already been tested, or rather let me use a rectangle so that you would get what I am trying to do. So this is a support zone. The price is always buying from. You can see that whenever price comes to that place, it's always trying to buy, right? So look for the very obvious one. This is another very obvious resistance zone. Here is also a resistance zone, right? But you can see that I think when, just to buttress my other point when I was talking about support being resistance and resistance being support, you can see that this zone right here is where price sold from, right? Price sold from here. In the future, it again sold from here. Then when price finally broke it, it came back, and then when it broke it again, it now became a support zone right here. You can now see that it became, this zone right here is what I'm referring to. This zone right here now became a support zone. Okay, so that is it. Let me shrink my screen again and look for more support zones. Right now, remember, this zone that is a support, this zone that we marked out as a support before, if you see what that price has done before, you can see that yes, it was a resistance zone at some point, and then finally price touched that zone and sold from the zone, which makes it a resistance zone, right? It came again, almost touched this place, and also again it sold, and then again it went up here, broke that, came back, and then that zone that was a resistance zone is now acting as a strong support. And whenever price comes here, you can see on your screen, whenever price came back to that zone in the future, it acted as a support right here and right here. All right, so those who use it for entry models, this is also a support zone, even though it has not been tested another time, but it is a zone where price it is a zone where price bought from, right? It's the zone where buyers took charge of the market. It was at a discount for them to buy, and they kept buying, right? So you extend that into the future. Again, you can see another zone right here, but this is like a ranging market. You can see where price made this entire place. The market made this entire place is a resistance, a strong resistance, and also here a support. This was a support, but I'd rather mark it from the external place right here. Some people may mark this, some people may try to mark this zone right here. You can see it right here. Okay, you can see this zone right here. Let me widen that. You can see it right here. You can see price touching this zone or this line that I marked. It is not a line. Remember, it is not a line, but I'm just trying to use this line to show you something here. So you can see that it touched here, right? Or should I use an arrow instead? Okay, you can see price touched this zone like how many times? About 3 times before it finally broke it, and then price continued to move. So let's see other examples. You can see this zone here used to be a resistance, and now it became a support, right? It was a resistance here. Let me widen that. Let me zoom that out. Right here, it was a resistance, right? A point or a zone from which price started selling from, and then it started buying from here. It no longer became a resistance, it became a support. Again, it came down to this place and still continued being a support, right? So these things are very easy to spot. In another video, I'm going to go extensively into how to use this concept of support and resistance to find entries. Okay, there are a lot of ways to find entries. Support and resistance is one of them. If you use it correctly with the right risk management skills, you make some cash, you make some dough. Okay, so I think that's basically it. Even if, let's go to another pair. This we just finished with with GBP USD. Let me just quickly look for GBP JPY. Okay, so you're also going to be seeing, like I said, it happens on all pairs. You find resistance and support levels on all pairs. You find it on all time frames, right? So whether you're a scalper, it means you have to go down to the smaller time frames to find support and resistance. Whether you are a position trader, you just bank on the larger time frames and work your way from there. So you can see this very obvious one. This very right now, price is just forming this one, right? This is a support. You can see that whenever price gets to that place, it's always trying to sell from there, sell from there, sell from there. Now, this is a very good example because I also want to show you that you can mark out your support and resistance with, you can mark out diagonal. I've been showing you all this while I've been showing you horizontal support and resistance. You can also mark out a point on a horizontal line, a zone on any horizontal line. You use a trend line where whenever price gets to that zone, it serves as a pivotal zone for price, right? Once price gets to it, it's going to bounce off and face the opposite direction, right? So that is basically it. You can see this is a horizontal resistance but a diagonal support. I hope that is clear, right? So you can see this on your screen. So you are now waiting for this is like an ascending triangle, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, an ascending triangle. So if you know something about chart patterns, you would know that yes, this is almost a signal that price wants to continue the buy movement, right? So I'm just going to be waiting for other confluences for price to break out and also try to retest it. Let's not go into entries, right? But I'm just trying to tell you that you can actually on a chart, you can actually see a horizontal support or resistance and a diagonal support or resistance. So right here, this horizontal resistance and diagonal support is trying to form an ascending triangle, right, which is a continuation pattern, which is trying to signal to me that price wants to gather more momentum and continue to buy from there. Remember, this price is coming from an already existing buy trend, right, an already existing uptrend. So it's just going to it's not 100% that price must break out from here. Let me use my path to, it is not a must that price will come here. This is what we are anticipating from the pattern that it is forming, but it is not to say that it is a must. It must come here, break, retest, which is what I'm anticipating though. If it actually does come to this zone again, right, with other confluences that I would look out for, I would definitely be taking a buy from this zone, right? So now this zone that used to be a resistance is now forming a support from which I want to take my buys from. I hope it makes a lot of sense right now. Okay, so this is a diagonal support plus a horizontal support forming a chart pattern, an ascending triangle chart pattern that is a continuation pattern. So let's look at other examples, right? Let's look at other examples. This is also a resistance. This is a support right here. This is a support. In the future, it may come to, price may come there to this zone. If I extend it into the future, price may come back to this support zone and also act as a support, or it will now turn that zone into a resistance zone. Whatever price does, just wait for your confluences and you would know what to do. I'm going to be making another video about entries, how to use support and resistance for entries. Check out that video, turn on the post notifications, subscribe to my YouTube channel so that whenever I drop that video, you will be the first to see it. Okay, so you can see the support and resistance zone. This is a resistance zone right here. Price took off. You are supposed to extend this, by the way, you're supposed to extend this rectangle into the future, but I just want to rush this off so that you can I can leave you to do any other thing you would love to do. Okay, so this is another support zone where price bought from on many occasions, on 3 or 4 occasions, meaning that that price was rejected. Okay, you can see that this place that used to be it used to be a resistance zone, because price got to this point and started selling again. It did it again and started selling, and then came up to this place and started using the same zone now as a support, as a place to buy from. Okay, so this is another support zone, right? This is another support zone. You're supposed to, again, like I said, you're supposed to extend it into the future so that you would be able to see it and use it, right? So this zone, you can see this zone right here. This is an obvious support zone. Price has tested it a couple of times. It has tested it 1, 2, 3, 4, about 4 times, right? And even in the future, it still has a tendency to come back to it and use it either as a support or as a resistance. You can see that whenever price comes into that zone, it finds a way to buy up from there, right? So the fact that price has come back to a zone doesn't mean that there's no guarantee that it's going to buy or sell off from there. You have to watch it. If you have good knowledge of chart patterns, if you have good knowledge of candlestick patterns, and some people use indicators, some people use Fibonacci tools, some people use whatever, right? Some people use trend line and other confluences to take their trades, right? But the most important thing is you must understand support and resistance. You must understand support and resistance. You must understand it from the higher time frame, and then if you are the type of trader that works with lower time frames, you can also scale down and also use it to your advantage. So on your screen, you are going to find a lot of it. Now let me quickly do just one. You can see this obvious resistance zone. Oh, that's a mistake. You can see this resistance zone. You can see right here on different occasions it tested it out, and I'm supposed to extend it into the future, but let's quickly rush this. You can see other, I'm just even marking the ones on the extreme, right? On the ends, you can see this one, a very strong support, resistance. It came again, became a resistance. Okay, rather it was a resistance, support, then a resistance, then finally a support, and then it took off from there. Okay, this is also a zone. This is also a zone. This entire place is also a zone that is a resistance, right? So I believe that this is straightforward enough for you, right? It's not difficult. Once you just look at your chart, look out for the obvious swing points where price got to and started buying from, or got to and started selling from. It's quite easy to identify. All you have to do is spend some time with your chart. Like I always say, it is not enough for you to watch a video or watch different videos about a particular topic. If you do not go into the chart and try your hands on it, you will not be able to identify it and use them to your advantage to buy and sell and make money. So I believe this class is clear enough. Thank you so much for staying to the end. If you have any questions, drop it to the comment section, and look out for my other videos that I'll be making about this topic on how to use them more in ranging markets, and also how to use them as entries. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.